Harry Knowles, Batman! Tiki here, and I have been watching through each and every episode of Batman Beyond for the first time. Dragon, tell him why we're here.
Well, you see, folks, long ago, I made a vow to educate Tiki in the ways of Batman the Animated Series, serving as his spirit guide to Gotham in a way, but that was the past, and we must now enter the Batman's future.
And tonight we're getting near the end of Season 2. It's Season 2, Episode 23, Sentries of the Last Cosmos. Dragon, this episode is absolutely batshit, man. That's all I have to. I don't even really know how I feel about it. I don't know if I love it. I don't know if I hate it. It's just a wild episode. It's honestly maybe the most mixed I've been on a Batman Beyond episode. Because on one hand, I genuinely love the Harry Knowles stuff. Because let me just say, Dragon, as someone who was like there when Harry Knowles was in his prime, you know, writing for Ain't It Cool and everything, and he was basically like, you know, one of the big figureheads of nerdom. I can say that they got him right on, like not just the look, but the way that he talks. So I really enjoy that side of it. Everything else, I think, is honestly stupid as shit. Dragon, why doesn't this guy just hire a hitman or something? This is the most elaborate fucking takedown job I've ever seen in my life. All right, Kogias, who's Harry Knowles? That is actually a good question, sir.
Harry Knowles. Where's Harry Knowles?
Harry Knowles is he's one of the godfathers of geek culture when it comes to the internet age. He was the founder of the website Ain't It Cool News, which used to be a very big deal before everything got homogenized into like 5 websites. Ain't It Cool used to be the go-to source for like news and geek culture and stuff like that. Harry Knowles very memorably has like just this big appearance of like this big teddy bear guy with a ginger beard. Basically,
Sasquatch-like.
Yeah, basically the living embodiment of the Eldon character from this episode, who I am sure is like literally like inspired by, like, not just inspired by him, Greg. This is pretty much a Harry Knowles caricature. We even get a Jar Jar reference in this episode. That's how Harry Knowles this episode is. All right. So, Dragon, how did this insane concept come to be, my friend?
Well, also, I just want to highlight, too, with Ain't It Cool News, one of the first sources to say, hey, kids, Iron Giant is a really good movie. Watch it. Unfortunately, fell on deaf ears, but they were the first people to say, hey, the Iron Giant's great. People, check it out.
I didn't really know that about Ain't It Cool.
That's the thing. Remember, Ain't It Cool were the first people to see the Iron Giant. Like, it leaked. The tape leaked, and they watched it. That was like one of the earliest leaks of a thing where they actually had a VHS tape of like the pencil test of Iron Giant, essentially, like the unfinished version of it. And it basically said this is going to like change the game. And sadly, it didn't. But it did kind of. It kind of did, and it kind of didn't. Anywho,
yeah. All right.
So the background on this, so the director was the great Dan Reba. So Dan Reba did, Hooked Up, did Terry's Friend Dates a Robot.
Which this episode does kind of feel like, I got to admit. I think that's the better episode of the two, but...
Of course, the fun thing about Terry's Friend Dates a Robot features the introduction of Howard Groot.
Who feels like he would fit right in with this Sentry crew, doesn't he?
Oh, he does, and the main reason for that is, so you can kind of see elements of it in this episode, but particularly Howard Groot is predominantly modeled after Paul Dini.
Right, yeah.
Basically, he's Paul Dini with like a little touch of Glenn Murakami in there. I mean, Murakami, I don't know, there's kind of like an influence of Murakami. Predominantly, he's a caricature of Paul Dini, which they have been known to do a couple times in Batman the Animated Series. One time, very literally, in Joker's Millions, where we have Paul Dini pretty much pictured as is, wearing a Harley Quinn costume, auditioning for the at the tryouts for like the new hench, and literally it's him doing the voice too, saying "darn it," and he just walks.
Oh, that's awesome.
Anyway, so yes, of course, Dan Reba paired with, we had two writers on this. Okay, we had two writers. Main writer, Rich Fogel, who admittedly his work in Batman Beyond is a little spotty compared to his work elsewhere. So Rich Fogel, he did Bloodsport, the first Stalker episode. Did Plague, which, the other Stalker episode. You can kind of see where I'm going with this. Did Rats, which again has a few things in common with this episode. With kind of the social outcast kind of thing, and kind of like a reflection on, I guess, kind of a cultural paradigm, but potentially, I don't know. And here's the big one though. Heroes wrote Heroes, which essentially is a parody of the Fantastic Four, with kind of the ongoing.
Oh, right. That feels a lot like this episode for sure.
So there's a lot of the DNA of this episode in that, because this episode overall is very much kind of Star Wars meets.
There's so much Star Wars in here.
There's a lot of stuff. It feels like Star Wars meets Jack Kirby meets a little bit of Tron. That's the best way.
With like a dash of war games.
Yeah,
it's a dash of war games. It's a little war game spice.
Okay, so the other writer that was on this, I want to say, I don't know if he comes back for anything else, but kind of a random pull, probably kind of a freelance sort of situation. We had John Shirley working on this. Now, John Shirley, he's written for a lot of other kind of like really interesting things. He did the 2012 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles series. That was, which I liked. Honestly, the only one that I really seen, and I liked what I saw of it.
I've heard good things about it.
I mean, yeah, I liked it.
Mm-hmm.
The Crow, he was one of the writers on the original Crow with Brandon Lee. And some of the other kind of, and beyond that, some of the kind of the odd kind of like shows that are spun off of the movies that kind of got series, like best example being the Real Ghostbusters. Flip side, the 80s RoboCop animated series. I forget if it was the 80s or the 90s, but the animated RoboCop series, which makes you wonder, how does RoboCop at that get like shows marketed towards kids?
Yeah, now that I have actually seen RoboCop Dragon, I can say with authority that does not make sense.
So that's what I'm saying. That was like, so he was involved in that as well. Point being, John Shirley, predominantly, he's a sci-fi writer. So that's one of the main reasons we get this episode. We have a sci-fi writer. I don't know if he proposed the idea or they were looking for it and they kind of brought him on for it. So I can't really speak to how precisely we get this, but all I can tell you is like context-wise, think about this. This is after Phantom Menace. We're very soon about to get Attack of the Clones. So, we're very, Star Wars is on everyone's mind. We know the writers.
It's so weird because the finale of this episode is very Revenge of the Sith. Isn't that the trippy thing about it?
It is. We have also a little bit of Jedi in there too. Revenge, the Return of the Jedi.
That's true. That's probably that is where the Force lightning came from. That's true.
Yeah. Anyway, so Star Wars is on the mind. Dean, you like Star Wars. A lot of the crew on the series like Star Wars. I'm sure it was like on everybody's mind. I don't know if maybe they got wind of some. I don't know how. I can't remember what year Genndy Tartakovsky was working on the Clone Wars series, which obviously would have been after Attack of the Clones. But I don't know if maybe there were like talks or not. The point being, Paul Dini had been the Lucasfilm. He had worked on some of the Star Wars animated shows, Droids and Ewoks. So he'd been to Skywalker Ranch. So I presume, honestly, my theory as to how this episode happened is that they were looking for not filler episodes, but they were looking to fill a longer season than they had on the first season. The first season's 13 episodes. This season, I want to say, I think it's 26 episodes. 24, 26
That
episodes.
Sounds right. We have 3 left. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. The point being, they have a bigger episode order to fill, and that's how we get certain episodes. Like, we can play around with things like Egg Babies. Like, we need an Emmy Bait episode. Let's do Egg Baby. And then we have, like,
it's weird that is considered the Emmy Bait episode. You explained it, and I understand it, but it's still weird.
You got it. It worked. They took the bait. Either way, my point is like Batman Beyond, ever since the genesis of the series, it was very much a fly by the seat of their pants sort of thing, where they got the green light right away. They didn't have a Bible to work on. They were just basically doing episodes and just kind of seeing what stuck and then kind of working from there. And I think 2 was kind of an experimental season. Like, okay, we have a bunch of episodes while we're doing our movie. We kind of need to. This very much feels like we're really concentrating on the movie, which we'll be ending this season out on, by the way.
Right.
I think a lot of the concentration went to the movie, and because of that, some of the episodes towards the end were maybe a little bit more on the spare side, like we saw with Plague and like we saw with this, and like so on and so forth. Some episodes really impressing, like April Moon, for example. Like the quieter, kind of lower, kind of kind of like either quiet episodes or just kind of very kind of spare episodes, and this very much feels like that. One little fun fact, and we're going to move on. Tristan Rogers voices our bad guy in this. Now, Tristan Rogers, Tiki.
I'm sure I do, but remind me who he is, anyways.
He was in Rescuers Down Under.
Oh, really? Who?
Jake.
Oh my God! Wow. Okay, that's great.
There you go.
Oh man, the Australian cock blocker himself.
Yep. Well, that's one way of putting it, but yes. Okay. All that said, let's dive into it.
All right. So the episode starts out in deep space.
So this is an opening. It's very much like, what the heck is going on? Kind of.
It's very much like an X-Men kind of opening, right?
Yeah, it's kind of an X-Men opening. It's very much feels very Tron-esque. This is the most Tron feeling kind of part of the episode here, where we have like our three characters in the middle of this. They're wearing suits that obviously aren't like full on Tron, but I'm just saying it's the fact that we have people that we know wearing kind of these sci-fi get-ups very much. You can only imagine to be a game, because last time I checked, Terry McGinnis wouldn't be in space and without the.
Wouldn't it be wild if this was just the status quo now?
So we have Terry, Max, and their little friend Corey. They're in space and they're riding these very Jack. This is where the whole Kirby-esque.
This is all the space stuff in this episode is very Kirby-esque.
The whole Sentry, the whole game, the whole Sentries, the last Cosmos.
Yeah.
And here's the fun fact. Here's the real fun fact. We've all seen Argo. We remember Jack Kirby had a role in the Argo story, which essentially was lampooning Star Wars. So we had a Jack Kirby version of Star Wars.
Oh shit! I forgot about that.
Remember, that's the thing. So Argo has.
I forgot that was Jack Kirby.
Yeah,
that's probably objectively the coolest thing about Argo.
Which again, in real life, Jack Kirby basically did like these fake storyboards, which were a parody of Star Wars, and that is what kind of helped save the day. Helped save some Canadians.
Kogias, Argo is probably the most underwhelming Best Picture winner of the past 20 years. It's not even the worst, because... Sorry, Dragon. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to personally attack you.
Come on, don't do it.
Green Book is worse. I'm sorry. I think Argo is like the most forgettable movie to win Best Picture. It really is. It's kind of a nothing burger.
All right, okay. The point being, whether you've seen Argo or know about the real life story with Argo, Jack Kirby played a role that actually helped save some people, which is really cool, and why the man is king. One of the many reasons the man is king. It's one of the spires on the crown. So, point being, we have very much kind of what if Jack Kirby, played the role of Ralph McQuarrie with Star Wars here. We have a very kind of Mobius looking kind of, like very much like Metron, kind of like floating, Orion, for example, had like that floating chair contraption. It's kind of what our guys are floating on here. They're going around, they're blasting stuff. You're wondering what the heck is going on. Is like they're flying sentries, and Corey here, he has his handy flame sword, again, kind of the fill-in for the lightsaber, and he saves the day.
Yes.
Now we reveal it's a game.
I will say I do like the Tron meets medieval look of the costumes. Like the helmets mixed with kind of like the kind of like tech aesthetic of the rest of the outfit.
That is really interesting, because we established in the Hooked Up episode, which again, same director, and Max is in the episode as well. Hooked Up, we've had kind of the virtual reality technology that essentially is employed in arcades. So we're kind of developing that further here, and you will see like in the background, Sentries, it's like still an existing game and everything. It's pretty big. It's, I guess, equivalent wise, it may have been like it might have been like the Dragon's Lair of its day in the future. Possibly. I mean, that's the vibe that I get with it, at least. So it's kind of this VR game in an arcade. Corey is obsessed with it. He's really good at it. It's a big point, high score, the local arcade. We have this really hilarious meta gag to me. It's meta to me, at least, where Corey, short little redheaded kid, teen.
I know what you're gonna say. Okay. I can see it. Go ahead.
So Corey, short little redheaded teen, he bumps into the big hulking redheaded that is voiced by Seth Green.
Yes.
That we have someone who very much looks like Seth Green, who is bumping into like this idealized DCAU version of Seth Green.
That's delightful for sure.
And he has, and there's a fun reference here. So he bumps into him, and he's like, "Hey, watch!" And he splashes on. He says, "What are you gonna do? Like hit me with, strike me down with a flame sword? Get a life." So when he says "get a life," you know what that's a reference to, don't you?
Oh no, actually.
It's the SNL Star Trek joke.
Oh really?
Yeah, there was the famous thing, like Shatner got a lot of mileage out of this every time he revisited, did actually some serious documentaries on Star Trek, or like he did one of his many books. Essentially, there's the SNL thing where he famously have William Shatner at a convention basically telling all the Star Trek fans, like, to get a life.
Oh God.
That was,
That's
of course,
funny.
things have shifted since, but back in the day, that was like it was basically Shatner calling out, like guys, okay.
Nowadays, it's like, you're not into geek culture, get a life.
Exactly. So that's
all right.
Yeah.
Just to shout out some of Kogias's comments here. He says Terry's friend dates a robot is still one of my favorite episodes because it's a plot description rather than title that rolls off the tongue. I feel like we're coming up. We're going to get one that's kind of like both a plot description and a title that rolls off the tongue, which is Terry's missing.
No, it's Where's Terry?
God damn it! I'm sorry. Where's Terry? All right. Kogias, I'm not really that big into TMNT. Honestly, I'm more into the movies than I am into the shows. When I was a kid, I watched the original animated series, but yeah, I don't know. I haven't really followed any of the series from beginning to end at all. Like I said, I'm more into the movies. I will see a TMNT movie if it comes out, but All right. Kogias says, imagine if Batman Beyond took place on the same timeline as the Jetsons. Dragon, have you heard the theory that the Jetsons and the Flintstones take place in the same timeline?
Not really.
So basically the idea is that the Jetsons are like the super, like it's basically like an Elysium situation where like the Jetsons are like the super upper class and then the Flintstones are like, like the rock bottom poor that humanity's left behind to rot away on Earth.
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Why can't we just keep it simple like we had with the crossover? Okay, look, they're living the same show but in different time periods. Not that hard.
Right.
Okay, it's the same world, just like separated by time. Okay, it's all you. Anyway.
Kogias, yeah, you don't have to see Argo, but I think you'd like Tron, though. You should check out Tron, by all means. I think
the original Tron.
Yeah. And Tron Legacy's good, too, if only because of the Daft Punk score.
I'm just saying, you have David Warner in the original Tron.
Of course.
Yeah.
All right.
Also doing the third one.
I know, with fucking Jared Leto.
Well, it can't all be sunshine and rainbows now.
All right, anyways.
All right. So, let's see. Anyway, so... Okay, so Corey, Corey is being observed by a real sentry, and this is where the episode's path with logic goes bye-bye.
Oh yeah.
So in one, it's a thing of like, don't you think if the guy can monitor all the games from his little HQ, why does he need like an actual sentry to go?
There's so many logic holes. I still don't understand why he even needs these sentries to begin with. Like when he could just hire a hitman and have it be a lot easier.
Yeah.
Like it seems really elaborate to just squash a lawsuit.
It's also kind of like almost like I'm not knocking the show here. I'm just giving you an example, like a plot that seems that we're referencing here. Kind of almost like a Monk sort of thing, where it's like in almost every episode of Monk. Very rarely do you not do this. You have like just someone who either lucks into a crime, more so they actually plan the most elaborate crime ever, and that's how you get something like he didn't want to. You have like, here's what happened. He didn't hire. He didn't hire a hitman because what better way to throw everyone off than to have someone else do his dirty work for him?
Right.
So it feels almost like one of those things, very much kind of like the clever procedural sort of thing, only without the cleverness. Okay, so Corey is still in game mode at school. He's like his brain's on the game still. He's thinking about like
this is like me with Disneyland in high school. Dragon. Everyone was like, "Shut up about Disneyland! Not everything has to be about Disneyland."
You know what, guys? One day I'm gonna have an imaginary competition. People are gonna submit stuff.
I already had the imaginary competition in high school, bro. That was already a thing.
I'm gonna go home to my imaginary conversation. That's all my internet friends on it, and we're gonna get together. And we're gonna do all this anyway. They're all gonna have funny names. One's gonna have a pie in his name anyway.
Oh my god. That's literally like 15 years down the stretch.
Yep.
Anyways. All right. Oh, also, Dragon, really quick, I just want to acknowledge the design of the arcade, I think, is really cool. I'm not sure if we've been to this location before.
Well, yeah, hooked up. We've been there at least. We've been to 2 arcades. One was kind of like a Chuck E. Cheese sort of arcade, but this is like the actual arcade.
So I really dig the background with like the tube structure. I don't know. It's just very visually appealing to me.
So actually, you know what? So that with the tube structure, I'm pretty sure, and yeah, you liked that when we talked about it as well. And this is kind of fun. It's an episode it's reference to an episode that the writer worked on as well, the Bloodsport episode, which introduced Stalker. We went to the Chuck E. Cheese-esque place, Cheesy Charlie's, I think is what we called it. And at Cheesy Charlie's, we had like the big awesome tube like play place thing that you liked, which is what you're seeing here again, and had the video game set up.
Right. Yeah, I remember that.
So that's I believe, yeah, I think it's Cheesy Charlie's is what we called it.
All right, so yes, the sentry following them literally makes no sense, but whatever. Okay, anyways, yeah, we're back to the we're at the high school.
Actually, scratch what I said about Cheesy Charlie's. That might have been a Family Guy reference. I don't
think
recall.
it is. I think that's the place where they Stewie's birthday.
I know. I just realized that as soon as I said it, it's kind of
Deep cut Family Guy reference.
For a moment, I just kind of thought, like, wait a minute, no, that can't possibly be from that Batman Beyond episode. That was Family Guy. Anyway, so forget what I said.
Family Guy and Batman Beyond took place in the same universe. All right, you're not even going to acknowledge it. Moving on.
Okay.
All right, so he gets an invite from what's the dude's name, Dragon? I'm sorry.
Simon Harper.
Simon Harper, yeah.
The in quotes creator of the game.
Right. There is a really cool shot that I'm sure you like it as well, where we go from the picture of his mansion in the computer to the actual mansion, kind of a slow zoom dissolve.
Yeah. So
nice.
We go to Sentrycroft, which essentially is, it's Skywalker Ranch.
I'm literally like 15 minutes away from Skywalker Ranch.
Yeah. So we have a Star Wars homage right off the bat, where apparently I'd love to think the real Skywalker Ranch would have this. Frankly,
it probably doesn't, but yeah,
I know it doesn't. I was saying it'd be cool. So we have almost like Jabba's palace. We have like the camera comes out like the mechanical eye from Jabba's palace.
From what I know about Skywalker Ranch, a lot of it is literally just a ranch.
I know. I've heard it's just basically it's a ranch with not a lot of Star Wars stuff.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Like there was a Yoda.
Like I've been to the Lucasfilm headquarters in San Francisco, and that is like way more actual Star Wars shit.
Like Kevin Smith got married at Skywalker Ranch, and he said like it's not wall-to-wall Star Wars. Like, there might be like a Yoda statue like by a fountain or something.
Right? Yeah. Right. That Yoda statue actually might be out front of the Lucasfilm headquarters in San Francisco now.
Yeah. Something got moved. I don't know if they replaced it with Grogu.
It's probably the statue because there is a Yoda statue right outside of the.
That sounds right. I'm saying I don't know if they replaced it with like Grogu or something. They're currently at Skywalker Ranch, but.
I would not think that George Lucas would want to have anything to do with Disney Star Wars characters.
Well, he does. He likes Mandalorian.
Does he?
Yeah, he was on this.
I've not really followed up on his opinions on that.
No, we talked about this back then, but it's, essentially he's he went to the set. He held the baby, man. He likes Mandalorian. He still won't admit. We've confirmed this. He still will not acknowledge the Star Wars Holiday Special, but
the important question is, did he hold the baby Lion King style?
No, he didn't. He held it like a loving father, though.
Oh my god,
Grandpa George.
All right, I'm gonna go to Applebee's now. Anyways, that's a deep cut. So you want to be an Imagineer lore reference. Because I once saw George Lucas pulling out of an Applebee's, and I refuse to admit that it wasn't him, because it totally was.
Just imagine like there was like a in cut. Imagine there was like a very obscure convention. It was LucasCon, where basically everyone dressed as George Lucas.
Oh God!
And at first glance, you'd think like, what is this, like a this old house convention? Like, like so many Bob Vilas. Why it's like Grandpa Bob Vila? Like, no, it's George Lucas, like wall to wall Lucas.
All right. Anyways, moving on.
Yes. So yes, we're at Sentrycroft. Corey is met by two other super fans who got high scores, and they're greeted by Simon Harper in costume. Which at first glance, again, is made to look kind of Jedi-esque, but in reality, Emperor Sith.
I will say, design-wise, I do think that's clever. How Act 1, it's Jedi, Act 2, very much Palpatine.
Yeah.
Also, just to shout it out, I assume that the high score thing, it must be at least an allusion to war games, right? It must be.
I would not be surprised. I think I'm pretty sure they like war games, so I don't think it'd be a wrong possibility.
All right,
so they're outfitted. So basically, there's a lot of hero worship going on for Simon Harper here. We go into essentially where the idea is like he kind of his main headquarters here in Skycroft. It looks very much like the bridge or like the Emperor's throne room on the Death Star. It very much looks like that. It's got a big throne, but around it has like all these screens, so it's like a kind of like cosmic background sort of thing.
I will say it is a very Batman Beyond thing to have a setting like this where it's like space, but like a simulation of space.
Yeah, it's like staying at a certain Star Wars hotel.
No, it's not, because it's way better than that.
True.
Have you seen how small those windows are, Dragon?
No.
They're pretty small. Anyways.
Good to know. All right, so basically he offers to make them real sentries, a.k.a. Jedis. He offers to make them Jedis, essentially, to help his cause. And basically he's essentially kind of brainwashing these kids in kind of a culty way. He's using fandom like a cult kind of right now.
It's so fucking stupid. I mean, honestly, if the motivation was something like he was trying to get, like, political power or something and wants to get followers, I think he would read more. But the fact that the motivation is, like I said, to just crush a lawsuit, it's so much work.
Yes, I mean, it really feels... I get the idea that he wants
hire a guy to break the dude's bones or something, whatever happened to the break the leg thing.
Yeah, here's where things break down. Okay, on one hand, I get the idea that he wants to pawn it off on fans so it's untraceable to him. Like, okay, it's just random fans.
Right? No, I hear you. I hear you.
By the same token, though, if the guy has that much money, he could hire someone good with all that money. In theory. Anyway, so point being, he's outfitting these guys to do his dirty work and kind of tricking him into doing so by playing into the fantasy, which is really messed up. Terry, I love this idea though. Terry's trying to chit chat with Bruce Wayne. So my guidance counselor,
yes, totally.
So my guidance counselor says I lack direction. This is a good joke. I lack direction. Go to the Hall of Records. I don't think it's what you meant.
Oh man, that's great.
So essentially, here the Sentries are attacking the Hall of Records to basically get rid of the actual, the digital trail for the lawsuit, which we're going to find out about later. That's essentially what they're doing right now. And then we have this is kind of fun though, like Batman having played this game, kind of making some some snide remarks to them about the game.
Right.
I thought SentryCon was next month. We're on a mission, to save the world from the Dark Region, which, it's the story of the game. And they're like, hey, then they attack them. A little fighty fight goes on here. Batman's contending with flame swords, which he did not expect. Like actual flame swords. These guys are just kind of rogue cosplayers, like trying to sabotage a place, but, they're actually armed. Now here's where things really break down logic. We have like the Gran Turismo logic of like, okay, so they played the game, but still, like,
Gran Turismo actually happened, Dragon.
I know, that's what I'm saying. It's like I know Gran Turismo happened, but we saw Gran Turismo was like a lot of intensive training, and
right.
The whole point of that movie is this is not easy, but it is doable.
Yeah, right.
Okay, this is like these kids were just given this stuff maybe like 2 days ago at most. Really, it
And they're
feels
literally
like
like flying around like the Green Goblin on the gliders and shit.
it really feels like day of, to be frank. Okay?
Right,
It
right,
feels like
right.
it happened like this is like that later that night.
Yeah, the
Okay,
timeline definitely. Like, honestly, that's another thing that would redeem it if it was like over a longer period of time, or maybe let's say like, like I said, I think what would save this concept is if he was trying to build like a movement of some kind. You know what I mean? And like
Yeah.
more and more people start to get into the Sentry thing.
Yeah, which clearly
Just the fact that it's 3 random nerds and they're suddenly just like, combat ready.
Yeah, and that thing, it's not like if it were really clever, he just would have hired like trained guys to pretend to be fans wearing the costumes. It would have saved himself a lot of trouble,
Again, goon to break the legs. That's all you need. Just put him in a costume. That's it. There
exactly.
you go.
Just put him in the suit. Say it's like it's Rogue fans. Anyway, just say it's Rogue fans. They don't have to be Rogue fans.
We've all seen Star Wars fans. They're fucking nuts.
Yeah, just dropping a purple haired woman just like he was going to go lightning speed,
All right.
So let's see. Okay, so the little fight's going on here. Ben's content with flame swords and everything. Again, many hours of play, but we're not getting like a whole like a boot camp of sorts.
Right. There's no you puked on my lawn moment.
Tiki, I swear to God, I was going to mention that, but I kind of lost my. I was going, Tiki. I'm not joking. I'm not just saying it because you just said it. I was seriously contemplating. I wonder if I should pull like the puked on my lawn. Right.
The only reason I pull that is because, as you know, I had to see that trailer.
Me too. That's why.
Over again.
That's exactly why. How do you economize the train? Well, it's David Harbour saying you puked on my lawn.
You puked on my lawn. And then the other line from that trailer that just is still ingrained in my skull to this day is, I know this truck! I've raced it 1,000 times!
Yeah.
Anyways.
Okay,
so says, Batman Beyond, attack the nerds. Indeed, that's pretty much what this episode is.
So here's the thing, too, is I think our nerds here, they do quite a number on the Hall of Records. It's not just destroying that one server. I mean, that place, it looks like it's coming down almost. It doesn't, but I'm just saying, like, that whole room is like in tatters and shambles, and they only like cut through like some computer banks. I don't know if I think the damage is a little disproportionate there. And the main reason I bring it up is Tiki. During all this, when the place is coming down around them, Bruce Wayne says, "Terry, can you hear me?"
Yes,
Terry.
We get 2 of them, Dragon. We get 2 of them.
Well, no, I'd count this one.
You just counted as 1, even though he says Terry twice?
Yeah.
All right, fair.
I'm just saying, technically, our counter is a McGinnis counter, and sometimes we have.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
Saying, I did go back, and I did, unless there's something I missed when I.
If it was McGinnis twice, would you have counted it twice?
I mean, if he yelled it both times, yeah.
Okay.
All right, so here's where our tally is at right now.
All right.
In total, 14.
15. Okay.
14.
All right. I got to admit that's not as frequent as I thought when we started it.
Well, admittedly, there are a lot of opportunities, but he doesn't say McGinnis sometimes. That's
right.
Like he's yelling at him in the Shriek episode, but it doesn't say McGinnis. He just says, it's like, check the light fixture. Check it, but he's not saying, Terry, check it.
Sure.
Anyway, but, classic, it's like checking on the well-being kind of yell, like, Terry, can you hear me?
Uh-huh.
Anyway, so what happened? We have, he tells him what happened. Then we have this great, the great Conroy moment is very small here.
Oh my God, yes! Thank you! I'm so glad we agree with this.
Okay, so
I do think that this is genuinely the great Conroy moment, and it's one word. So because he's just like, he is so like confused, you know what I mean?
Admittedly, there are 2 great Conroy moments in this episode, but I agree with you. This is the one that goes spring to mind first.
All right.
Where he says, Terry says, I got fried by the Sentries, the last Cosmos, and then Conroy just summons with just in just the perfect way. He says, what?
What? The great Conroy moment is when he goes above and beyond in the voice acting department, and he puts a lot into that one word.
A lot got
I mean?
conveyed. Just the one of like, this guy's been around, and even he's like,
Exactly.
it's like basically him acknowledging the. To me, what the flaw of the episode is, this doesn't feel like Batman. Even he's like saying, like, wait, what? This is
Sure.
this isn't the sort of thing we do.
Oh man.
Like, Terry, you're in the wrong show. Called Send This to the Zeta Project. This isn't us. Okay, so Terry loops Max in. Real sentries, real bruises. It all happened. They claimed to be sent by the Wise One, and then Max recalls when Corey was geeking out earlier. Oh yeah, the Wise One's what they call Simon Harper, the guy who created the game. So Terry's making the connection there, and he says, it seems too coincidental. He says, like, really, you think so? Is Jar Jar lame?
Okay, I'm not gonna lie, Dragon. Does that line just kind of feel a little dark in retrospect?
Well, why do you say that?
Because of the Ahmed Best situation.
Well, true. Well, I mean, right now,
I don't know. I'm just saying, like, we know a lot about his mental health struggles now in regards to like all the Jar Jar roasting. So I gotta admit, every time I see like a Jar Jar joke in like a 2000s thing, I'm kind of like, that was like a death by a thousands cut thing for him.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, when you look back on it, again, I told you about that Icon Star Wars thing. You really should watch.
Oh yeah, right. I probably should get around to that.
When they talk about Phantom Menace, I mean, they do highlight that Jar Jar was genuinely very pivotal to what they were going for. And unfortunately, they don't really hit on the whole how Ahmed Best felt about it. But I'm still saying that you get to see, like, Jar Jar had a lot to do with that movie.
Yes, I know he's not calling, like, I know he's not obviously being like the actor who played Jar Jar is lame, but still, it's like we know that Ahmed Best had a lot of mental health struggles following the release of Phantom Menace, and like I said, I really think it was kind of like a death by a thousand cuts kind of thing.
Well, Jake Lloyd had
little pot shots like this.
Jake Lloyd also had it rough.
Jake Lloyd had it rougher because he was a child, and he still hasn't recovered from that shit. Yeah.
Regardless, I mean, yeah, like I do see that. I mean, basically, I know the Ahmed Best thing has a happy ending that I don't see as dark. Perhaps maybe that's why.
That's true. Yeah,
like, I'm saying because anyway. So, point being, like the whole Jar Jar lame thing. This is freshly after Phantom Menace came out.
You know what though? I love to think that Terry's like referencing like an old school classic movie.
I know that's the thing though.
Like he's referencing like how we would reference something like Gone with the Wind nowadays.
Yeah. Yes.
That Rhett Butler was kind of lame. Anyways.
I will never be hungry again.
In today's society, we would probably be like, yeah, that Rhett Butler was kind of a sexist, wasn't he? All right, anyways.
So no one ever talks about how great, like that. I forget if it's the end of part 1 of Gone with the Wind or not. Just when, and I shall never be hungry again. Da, 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 da.
It's a good act break, Dragon. It's a good act break.
I
won't deny that.
We'll never get us a credit, man. That's a good.
Having said that, I have not actually sat through all of Gone with the Wind. So
every time Gone with the Wind gets brought up, it's always like never like da 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 da. Now it's like
it's always just the one line.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what that movie's boiled down to, probably for the best.
I'm saying it's now, like, it was boiled down to that, and then it was boiled down to Mammy and everything. But they're saying before, they had like the big swelling things. Like, frankly, my dear, I don't give a. Okay, so let's see. So they try getting some details from Corey. Being a little playful about it. Terry kind of overshoots his hand there. Says, "That's it. That's what it was. It's all a big joke to you, isn't it?" Well, you know what? That's what it was. A big joke on us. Downplaying again, trying to throw him off the scent of like now his new dual identity is
Terry will remember that.
Yeah. So Batman, because of this, he pays Harper a little visit, not buying that. Okay, there's no way that guy's going to downplay meeting like essentially what he
exactly. Yeah.
So now it's interesting that when you think about this though. Okay, is real quick. We reference Jar Jar Binks. Okay, yes. And we have like the whole parody of Star Wars in this. So I think internally what we're doing is, so Star Wars exists in the DCAU apparently.
Oh man, yeah. No, I mean objectively it does with the Jar Jar reference.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. We're, like, in referencing Jar, that's what we're saying. We're saying, so in a sense, Century's Last Comics is very much a ripoff of Star Wars. That's the real lawsuit that no one's talking about.
Oh man, that's a good observation.
Honestly, a part of me wants to do the math and just kind of like I'm not going to do the math, but part of me would like to do the math, figure if like Star Wars would become public domain at this point in Batman Beyond.
What year is Batman Beyond supposed to take place?
Well, I believe it should be 2045.
Yeah, it would be public domain by that point.
From 77 to yeah. Well, wait,
no, not quite.
Almost though.
Yeah, getting there.
Either way, they've probably been technicalities too. It would have to be. I don't the prequel. Do you think when Star Wars hits public domain, you think it's gonna be everything Star Wars, or do you think it's just gonna?
It's just gonna be New Hope and the original version of the New Hope.
Okay, there we go. Right, never mind then. Forget all that. The point being, though, is probably gonna be a lawsuit. Boy, now with Disney.
God. Okay, Code Diaz says this is unrelated, but did you know that the original TV Superman George Reeves is in Gone with the Wind?
He was one of the twins, one of the redheaded twins that was hitting on Scarlett O'Hara.
Dragon, we still need to come up with an excuse to talk about the I Love Lucy episode, man. I'm chomping at the bit.
Me too.
Seriously.
I love it too.
All right.
They call me Superman.
Oh, God.
All right.
All right, next up. Oops. Yeah?
All right, Tiki, you can hear me, right?
You cut out for like just a second, but I can hear you now.
Okay, so Batman essentially breaks in the Skywalker Ranch.
Yes.
But you got him. It sounds like a cool fanfic I would love to read.
That does sound like a really cool fan fiction.
Yeah. All right, so we have this high tech kind of motion tracking security bots that attack Batman, which is kind of a clue that something's going on here. He claims it's like a security measure. That's a bad guy layer thing.
Right.
So Batman confronts him about the Sentries and the attacks and everything, and Simon Harper, he kind of plays it off as like, well, it's hardcore fans. I don't have any control over that. They're just going to do what they're going to do. It's hence the elaborate security that you found out the hard way. The bad exit right in the middle there, but a fake bad exit because he's really secretly outside the compound.
Okay, is it fair to say that this might be among Terry's best bat exits so far? Because I think it's up there.
The fact that he used it cleverly to spy on them is really
right. Exactly. Yeah.
So again, trusting his gut, he knows, okay, this guy's definitely the guy. He summons the Sentries, and he moves up the timetable, saying, okay, I'm gonna send my Sentries out to go after the Dark Regent.
Oh man.
The Dark Regent has taken human form in the form of Eldon Michaels.
This is so fucking stupid. Here's
the big thing. You'd imagine he would say, hey. Because later on, he's going to be mad at him for not killing the guy. It's like, well, he probably could have said, like, you're going to go and kill him instead of just go after him.
Right.
Yeah. It's like, hey, three teens who have never spilled the blood of a man, I want you to go spill the blood.
God.
I want you to go. We want
and
you to go.
There's 4 of them, by the way.
Well, no, here it's our 3 teens, but then we have the 2 other guards. So he's technically has.
Oh, right. Okay.
Here's the baffling thing. Okay, the other 2 guys we don't get to know them at all, and you would.
No, not at all. Not in the slightest.
So it really feels like okay. So if he had like just 2 guards, I don't.
And again, you would think that this would be a perfect opportunity to slot in Harold Groot.
Howard Groot.
I'm sorry, Howard Groot.
Yeah, he's a Howard. Darn it.
Harold Groot is Howard Groot's hungry cousin.
He's part of the Howard Collective, man. How dare you get the
God.
It's the coalition of Howards. The Hall of Howards.
All right.
Anyway, but yeah, you'd imagine if he has like 2 just essentially nameless henchmen that we do not reveal as like fanboys underneath, you'd imagine why did you just send those 2 guys? They seem to get it. They're fighting Batman later. I mean, unprompted. Like, why did you just send those guys? Why the teens? Again, unless we don't really spell it out, which I really think we should have. Just like, hey, he's gonna pin all the crimes on the teens and get off scot-free. Just call them like obsessed fans. Like, we don't spell that out though.
No, we really don't. You're right about that. Yeah, we get the one. If it weren't for the notion of him calling out the crazed fans, which, by the way, is like something that has aged like eerily well, right? Like it's almost prophetic.
Yep. Right, so Terry has smartly stayed behind after the Bad X. He's listened into all this, and he now has a lead here. He says, "I'm going to use." He's using them to an. It sounds, this is really dumb. Sorry, in the writing here. If I understood this right, which still the fact that I can't even still after rewatching this thing, after a few times, I still can't get what exactly the point was of this.
Yeah, I watched it twice myself.
It's just the fact that it sounds like he's deluding. He might be deluding them into thinking he's been training them for a real Sentries of the Last Cosmos that's going on in actual
Basically,
space.
Yes, that's how I read it.
Because that's the line that
he's saying. It makes no sense, but
it's like they know it's a game, but like, and he's trying to spin it like, no, this game is practice. I'm an actual. I actually know. Well, this is what I'm saying.
Like I said, Dragon, he's basically trying to spin it as war games, essentially.
Yeah, which again is it's kind of dumb. Anyway, okay, so Bruce Wayne, this is also another thing that like I'm just gonna call it out, man. I don't. Rich Fogel's Batman Beyond work does leave a little bit desired. It's if you look at his track record, man, rarely does he have like a real slam dunk of a Batman Beyond episode. The best one he's got is that Heroes episode,
which I didn't even really like, honestly.
This is what I'm saying, man. So I think a lot of his writing weaknesses. I mean, Rich was great on a number of other.
I mean, I would say his best one is probably the Terry's Friend Dates a Robot.
Well, yeah, that was, he didn't write that though. That
was right. I'm sorry. Yeah.
I mean, honestly, he did the Rats episode. I mean, did you like the Rats episode?
I like it better than the other two you mentioned.
Well, there you go. Rats is kind of the best one that he's got right now. It's about it.
Right.
Anyway, point. Yeah, that's the thing. So it's just not a great writing, because then we have the Bruce Wayne side of things here. All that Bruce Wayne could dig up on this guy, again, Bruce Wayne, a.k.a. Batman, a.k.a. the world's greatest detective. The most he could dig up on this guy was an address, because apparently he's off the grid. Now, look, there's being off the grid, but here's the thing. In the future, okay, it's like El Michaels, he's just in the middle of a lawsuit. He's not, even if he's fearing for his life, this is like a recent development, okay? The guy's like, he's got to be on the books elsewhere. People have to know where he is and everything, okay? Like, he can't be completely, like, going off the grid over this, and we don't, I mean, he's expecting people to come after him, but I don't buy this guy's going to go so well off the grid that all Batman can find is an address. Even if he's going off the grid, I mean, he has like one address. Like, how does he not know more about this guy? Is my point. And additionally, it's just the fact of, like, we had a very good reason why maybe he was off the grid. Like, okay, the Hall of Records. If the Hall of Records in the destruction there, maybe that's why Bruce couldn't tap into like the files and everything to get a good like dossier on this guy.
Sure.
Like, that I could buy. We don't say that. That's the problem. There's a lot of holes in this writing here. Okay, essentially, Batman sneaks in. Now, this is kind of fun. And you've seen this in Dark Knight, a True Batman story. We essentially sneak into Paul Dini's apartment.
Right, essentially, yes.
It looks kind of like Paul. This feels like Paul Dini's apartment, I gotta be honest.
It does. It totally does.
I love it. Basically, Paul Dini's apartment, maybe with a skylight, maybe. So so he's then attacked, and again, I don't buy this.
This is like the most this is the most badass interpretation of Harry Knowles ever. Dragon.
The fact that I still don't buy
shadow with the glowing green eyes, he looks like some sort of creature.
Kind of a nod to Silence of the Lambs with the night vision goggles and the gun. So he's shooting. So he's Batman.
Ow, that hurt.
Ow, that hurt. Okay, so first of all, the great Patton Oswalt.
How did I not know that was Patton Oswalt?
Are you kidding me? You didn't know that was Patton Oswalt?
No.
Oh my!
I feel so dumb.
Yes. Really? I mean, okay, never mind.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
To Patton's credit, he's a pretty good voice actor. He doesn't just have one baseline for everything he does. He can actually do characters.
I mean, I'll give you that, but I mean, this one's pretty. Okay.
Dragon, I was thinking of Harry Knowles, all right? When I see this guy, I think Harry Knowles. Obviously, I know Harry Knowles didn't actually voice him, but still.
Well, I mean, I would assume you know that, but now I'm not so sure.
It would be great if he did, but
Yeah, it actually would be pretty great if you did.
and
One
it is
thing,
something that I could see Harry Knowles actually doing, honestly, voicing a caricature of himself.
like, this is kind of one the apartment too. I like this kind. It feels like a vague nod to the Gray Ghost, where you had like the toy collector that was modeled after Bruce Timm. There with like like just Batman. This in terms of our set piece for the fight and everything's about to happen. Like the little Lost in Space robot, and a lot of sci-fi nods here. Anyway, so he tosses the batarang, hits the Pat. We hear Patton Oswalt's voice saying, "Ow, that hurts," and we reveal Ellen Michaels, who essentially is a combination of Harry Knowles and George Lucas.
I mean, George Lucas, as far as like, his career, but in looks, it's all Harry Knowles. It is very much just a Harry Knowles caricature.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying the fact that he has like the glasses and maybe a little bit of the coiffing of the beard and the hair, but that's what I'm saying. It's like vaguely.
Have you seen Harry Knowles? He has the exact same facial hair.
No. I know he has the same facial hair. I just mean like in turn. I think it's like specifically like the upper hair like has like a bit of the coif like George Lucas. I'm saying I'm just saying. The point being, anyway, sliced, it's still a combination of the two. Okay,
Yeah,
predominantly Harry, very clearly Harry Knowles. First and foremost.
I love it because back in the day, back in this era, Harry Knowles was like kind of like Dragon. He was essentially the closest thing I can describe Harry Knowles as is like Mark Rylance's character in Ready Player One or something. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like he was like the godfather of nerd culture. Like I guess him and Kevin Smith, but Kevin Smith wasn't really like as predominantly online back then. So like as far as like online nerd culture goes, Harry Knowles was it.
It's funny you mention that because there was an episode of the Cleveland Show where they went to Comic-Con and they did a joke, which I mean, in hindsight, maybe a little, it's kind of a cheap joke, but it was back during his heavy days. It was Kevin Smith and Harry Knowles in a sumo match over.
My god!
Over some food, and basically they charged at each other almost anime style, and then they combined into a giant anime blob.
Oh Jesus Christ! Oh, that is very mean spirited.
Yeah, and then I think there was a line. I forget if it was in just the table read, if it was in the final episode. But it's saying, like, "Join us, Brett Ratner. We will be unstoppable," which clearly did not age well even further. Yeah. Anywho. So yeah, so Ellen Michaels again, essentially combination here, like 70% Harry Knowles, maybe 30%
Harry Knowles
George.
Looking weird in 2023.
Yeah,
his face is morphed.
Well, I know he's doing like the samurai bun thing for a while, but
he just looks haggard. Anyways,
yeah, I mean, okay. So anyway, so they're also here's the interesting thing though. Looking back on this episode, it never occurred to me until after I went through the journey I've gone through with Batman, learning things about him. Over the years. Some parallels to Bill Finger versus Bob Kane here in the story of Elton Michaels.
Oh yeah, oh very much so. Yeah, that's a good pull.
No, which I mean, me watching this before 2014, I never would have put together. But post 2014, like now, I know the full story there. It's like wow. So yes, the idea this guy's been kind of cheated out of the rights. And of course, the other guy's gotten very rich, and of course, people in the industry knew, but only they couldn't really fight for him though because of the company. So that's what I'm saying. It's like Bruce Timm and company. They probably knew this. They probably, Dini at least, knew this.
Sure.
Fun little thing of Philip K. Dick's typewriter being there. I love that Terry mistakes it for a word processor.
So that's great. That's an awesome bit of like continuity with the world building.
Typewriter is completely extinct. The word processor is the new typewriter.
So from this point on, every word that comes out of this guy's mouth is like that's the thing that makes me think it's very Harry Knowles, Dragon, is that like Harry Knowles would have Philip K. Dick's typewriter. Harry Knowles would call Philip K. Dick the greatest writer of all time. Like this is all Harry Knowles shit.
Yeah. And also, again, just Patton Oswalt was perfect casting because one, I love Patton Oswalt. He's funny as all get out. I mean, he seems to be a really nice guy. Also, a good emissary of fandom. He really brings like you can believe this guy actually loves what he's not an embittered, sad writer. Like this guy is just like he's the guy who's not getting the credit. He's not getting the fame. He's the creative. He's the creative without the romance applied to. He's like a realistic writer who's also gotten gypped out by essentially by success and or the studio system here, if you will.
Right.
Yeah. Also, of course, with Philip K. Dick, Blade Runner, which is an influence on Batman Beyond.
Of course. Sure.
But yeah, so he's the way he's like he's speaking very much like the way Harry Knowles writes. Whole, I'll prove that I have proof here, Batman, that Simon Harper is a two-faced Janus.
Right, exactly. Just his terminology, it's so on point.
Yeah. So he hands him this envelope, which gets shot out of his hand, and then Michaels is kidnapped. I think the funniest, Patton Oswalt cracks me up here. The funniest thing. So they tear the place up. Batman is like rocketing our heavy. It's also kind of a visual game, seeing Batman rocket away this heavy man, across the room, and he's huge. Okay, it's not just like a top heavy guy. I mean, no, Elton Michaels is like huge. He's Harry. He's the size of Harry Knowles.
This is a very amusing beat right here.
This is my research. And then
my research.
And someone like blasts them or like throws something like So that's like one. That's just Patton Oswalt having flawless delivery, and the voice just sounding great, and that's just Patton Oswalt being really good at what he does. Now, fun fact. I'm just going to reaffirm it just in case some things have been forgotten, like who DG is. Let me take you remember who DG is, don't you?
I can't say. Yeah, obviously.
Yes, Dick Grayson.
And I was going to pull your leg for a second, Dragon. I was going to be like, you know what? I can't quite place it, but no, I couldn't go there.
Yes, he's the young guy in the mask that Batman adopted, Tiki. That one. That's Dick Grayson. Okay, he became Robin. Anyway, was in Kim Possible with Will Friedle. He played Dementor.
Oh, okay.
And he's hilarious in Kim Possible. So it's got a little bit of a little precursor when they worked together on Kim Possible.
Sure.
Anyway, so after El Michaels gets nabbed, they all get away. Batman looks at the proof that was in the envelope, and he's got an idea to save the day. We go to Sentry Croft, and El Michaels, he ain't taking crap from Simon Harper. He's playing ball here. He's not playing ball. He's calling him out like, you can't do this yourself. You're going to send these lame brains after me. Now Harper's questioning, hey, three teens that I've manipulated and given you like murder weapons of flame swords. Why didn't you kill this man?
God,
like kill him. But that's not the way the Jedi's. We're not murderers. Essentially, sentries. We don't kill. So again, this is where we start to question things here. Then we basically call out that the whole reason for this whole thing is that El Michaels was suing Harper for like not giving him his cut of the profits in the deal, and that they're like going to court with him and everything. So basically, this guy, instead of just like using his money and influence to hire better lawyers, or maybe doing some court espionage, and maybe just go honestly send some. Not you don't even need a hitman. Just send someone to break into the guy's place and set the thing on fire. And then
that's what I'm saying. That's what I've been saying the whole time.
Or hire professional saboteurs to go to basically the thing is like they wanted to destroy the data bank, so there's no record of any creation from Eldon Michaels, and then set the thing, then get rid of the little document of proof. That's all you got to do. But so and then we have this thing where he has like the Emperor, he has like this outfit underneath his get up, and he's going full Emperor here, like hitting with force lightning. And we don't explain any of this tech, like how any of this is possible, because the man just developed video games and really just he made the games. How the heck is he going to have lightning powers?
Virtual reality. That makes zero sense at all.
It's almost like the Family Guy joke of how can you afford these things, but it's more so just like
that joke.
But how can you build these things? Like the hover technology and flame swords and like lightning hands. How are you doing all this?
I mean, with the money that he's spending on the resources for this scheme,
yeah,
like he could probably just invest in something else that actually is lucrative for him.
Yeah. So it's like he plotted against me. It was a lawsuit, and he zaps him. Look, this I love this. Is the fact El Michaels again? Like, he has kind of the grit of Harry Knowles. Harry Knowles might go for something like this, where he's just like, if 20%'s too much, I'll settle for 15.
Oh, that is totally a Harry Knowles line for sure.
It's a crazy line. Just he's the man shooting lightning at you, and you're still haggling.
Right.
All right, so Batman uncloaks himself. Odd that he just let all that happen, mind you, but he is a rookie. Batman uncloaks himself and he tosses the proof at the feet of our misled teens here, and basically the proof in the pudding that's the game script with Ed Michaels' name on it. Batman kind of lays things out as he's doing battle with the other two Sentries, which are from this image, by the way. So these are the two guys that should have been in the episode, but weren't really. Anyway, so as Batman's taking them on, let's see. It's just, Harper is going full Emperor. He's then attacking Batman. Says, I'll destroy you, Corruptor, Moon Slug.
Oh man.
All right, so you're starting to believe your own
getting
fiction.
high on his own supply. That's all I can say.
Which is a good line that is kind of parodied here, where this is you're believing your own fiction. And he
pretty much.
He Ebola wraps the guy's lightning hands together, so he shorts himself out. So the circuitry of the suit and everything. Yeah, and then the Sentries turn on Harper because, hey, this isn't right at all. And we're going to use our flame swords to intimidate you. All right, so then we're in the Batcave, and we have basically the other great Conroy line here, which is after he says, so they saw through all the smoke and mirrors. Why? And then Terry's asking the moral of the episode, why do you do it? He had all the money and wealth and everything. Why? It's a really good question. Terry's asking the question the writer should have asked him. Why is he doing all this?
Oh.
And Bruce says, the other great Conroy line, it's not easy giving up being God.
That is a good line.
I mean, I'm with you. I appreciate the nuance and everything that gets conveyed in the what. But that said, it's a pretty sweet line, though, in an episode that has lackluster writing. It's just the whole,
sure.
easy giving up being God. And then Terry says, well, I guess you know. So, but again, here's something nice, though. I feel we undercut in kind of a silly way. But again, it's a decent ending, but still it's the fact of, Bruce has some sympathy for these kids. Poor kids looking for a video game for something to believe in. It's actually some nice, Batman kind of Bruce Wayne just kind of looking out for the youth and the direction of the city's going in, or he's trying to impact some real change, and they're looking to video games as religion.
Right.
What do you think they'll do now? And then we do a Lucas wipe to lunch. Tiki, lunch.
It is a Lucas wipe. You're right.
Not just a Lucas wipe. No, it isn't. That's literally a Lucas wipe. They did the Star Wars wipe.
Uh-huh.
So it's a Lucas wipe to lunch. But Terry, it's lunch.
Oh God, yes.
All right, so Michaels is trying to put some ketchup on his fries there, and then the boys return the script to him, and they make their apologies, and basically, Ed Michaels gets the fame and appreciation he was kind of denied through everything. I love the way Oswald delivers the scene, though. I love there's it's not he's not cocky about it, but he is kind of flattered by it.
Which is probably the most inaccurate thing about him depicting Harry Knowles, honestly. That Harry Knowles will be all over this shit.
He is well, here's the thing.
Yes, that's right, I am a genius.
But that's the thing, though. I mean, but Tiki, that's kind of what he's doing, though, where I'm saying he's not being super braggadocious about it, but you can kind of tell. I like how he trepidatiously takes the praise, where it's well, I guess, but then he fires into it. It all started long, long ago in a cosmos far, far from Earth.
Oh my God, that is a little bit on the nose.
It is on the nose. It is cheesy as all get at, but I'm saying that's him rolling with the Harry Knowles. Maybe I am a genius. Come in, let me tell you stuff.
Right, sure, I can see that.
Invites him in to tell him a story. It's what if George Lucas were a regular guy down the block? Essentially, it's we just walk up and, hey George, can you tell me about Star Wars? Sure, come on in.
God,
I'll make some pizza rolls. Come on in.
Oh my God, oh, Jesus Christ, the pizza rolls.
I saw this review once. Someone was talking about pizza rolls, and maybe I'll make some pizza rolls. Or this nice man.
I love how the Last Jedi not the Last Jedi. Rise of Skywalker just broke Red Letter Media, and they just will never do a blanket review on that movie. It's just not worth it. Anyways, I don't even think they've outright come out and said that. I just think that's kind of the reality of the situation.
I'm not crazy, so they did not talk about Rise of Skywalker then.
They did a half in the bag on it, but no, they did not do a proper Plinkett review on it.
Yeah.
The last Plinkett review they did, I think, was Picard Season 1, which was a while ago.
Okay.
Anyways.
Well, yeah.
All right. So that's it. All right. So Yeah, final thoughts, right? I mean, this is a batshit crazy episode, pun intended. But the Harry Knowles stuff is fun. I will admit, Patton Oswalt is fun for sure. Some cool tech. But my God, I think out of every single story in a Batman Beyond episode, this has got to be the most nonsensical, right? It's got to be.
Tiki, if we ever did a bottom ranking of Batman Beyond episodes, I mean, look, I'd have to go over it, but to me, this is always not aggressively, but it's always kind of been the bottom rung for me, Batman Beyond, because
I could see it. Yeah.
Only because it feels the least like a Batman episode of every single other Batman Beyond episode. Like every other episode at least has a correlation to Batman or Terry McGinnis. This Terry feels very out of place in this episode.
He does. He totally does. Yeah.
It's like Batman barely should be in this episode. It just doesn't feel like Batman. That's kind of the thing. It's like I'm not aggressively saying it's like the worst thing ever, but it feels like the most un-Batman Beyond like episode in a show called Batman Beyond.
Right.
All right, we have some comments. Should I read off before we get out of here?
Yeah, sure. Let's see. Kogias, just some commentary about Bill Finger. The fact that there are not multiple characters, the fact that there are multiple characters named after Bob Kane, but not one after Bill Finger, aside from Green Lantern, is sad.
Mm-hmm.
Indeed. Kogias also says, I don't see Bob Kane as the creator of Batman or even the co-creator. He hired Bill Finger to create Batman for him.
Not inaccurate. I mean, that's the thing,
back, my friend.
Yeah, that's the thing. Bob Kane essentially he got the foot in the door and he made the deal, but that's really as far as it went. Then Bill Finger did all the creative stuff, and Bob Kane, well, essentially he got all the credit. And he was the front man. So,
Let's see. He says Patton Oswalt rivals Kevin Smith for the busiest fanboy in Hollywood.
I
could see that.
Yeah.
And then finally, I think this is a good observation.
Yeah, this is actually. I meant to bring this up. I'm
okay,
so glad.
Go ahead. You read
it. This plot is also similar to Riddler's first appearance in Batman the Animated Series, because Riddler invented the video game, but his boss refused to give him credit and fired him. And that was mainly because the Riddler, if I recall, Riddler tried to sue his bosses for that, and it didn't go well for him. But yeah, it's. But yeah, I do like that. I like that component of the episode, but again, it just very, very much feels like we're not really. The lawsuit thing was like a really good quiver they had in the story and the story arsenal here. But just that is a great reveal of like this crazy man is doing all this because of a lawsuit. That's a good reveal, but it feels like that's more interesting than what we ended up with for the rest of the episode, though.
Yeah. All right. Okay, so we did final thoughts. Thanks to Kogias for joining us in the comments, as always. Take us out, Dragon. What's coming up next?
A vigilante here to save the children. Elevated action. The dangers of group therapy. Can Terry get to the bottom of this new mystery? Will he and Bruce Wayne ever get along? Tune in next time to find out. Same animated bat time, same animated bat place.
On the next visit to Batcave Beyond with Payback. My research! Whoa!